Hello, everybody, and welcome to a Democrat and a Republican walk into a bar, our virtual session. I'm your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Banyai.
And I'm Christy, your Republican host.
Yeah, we were just talking about how, we have our water on the rocks in today's version of the bar. That's okay, right? So we are still looking for a new host location. Hopefully we'll be able to find one soon, but in the meantime we'll be coming to you every other Sunday in this virtual format. And I was just telling Christy I was living the high life today, cleaning toilets and watching football. That's my favorite thing to do. So I actually wanted to start there with the latest controversy in the NFL, Bad Bunny.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm going to be really, really honest. I have no idea what's going on. I have zero concept at all. I've heard of Bad Bunny. I'm pretty sure. I honestly don't know who he is. I don't know why it's a big deal. I was hoping for maybe somebody that I knew, but I'm not mad about it because I don't know who he is. So tell me about it.
He's a reggaeton artist from Puerto Rico. And I know that because I was a Zumba instructor for a long time, and there's a special place in my heart for reggaeton, and so I know who Bad Bunny was. And I don't know, he's been very popular. He's been doing a residency in Puerto Rico. It was a very interesting choice, I will just say, from the NFL because his songs are almost entirely in Spanish, and there's a lot of heat and immigration and identity issues tied up into that. And I don't know, he is a massively selling popular artist, but with a lot of Spanish speaking folks. So I just thought it was funny how everybody lost their mind about it. And I was wondering why Republicans actually even watch the NFL anymore, because it seems like there's been a lot of things that have made them mad.
I will tell you with absolute complete honesty, I don't know if Republicans watch the NFL anymore because I barely ever do. I'm not a sports girl. You know this. I like ballet. I like theater. I like this and that. I'm not that kid. And so I know about the NFL. I know I'm Team Bucks, if anything. If I ever have to watch it, I'm Buccaneers all the way because that's my town, my Southwest Florida area. But I really can't speak to it because at the end of the day, look, I get it that people are getting frustrated that it's maybe, not, they don't see their favorite artist or something like that. But really, again, we talked about it last week, or not last week, 2 weeks ago with Jimmy Kimmel. There are bigger fish to fry and I really don't care. So it's one of those things that's I get the frustration, and at the end of the day, then stop watching it. Just don't watch it. And I support it. If you don't want to watch it, I support you. Do whatever you want to do.
And they're private companies, series of private companies, right? So they're doing whatever. I don't know, maybe that's where they feel their market is. I have no idea. I am a sports girl. I'm a Lions fan. I love football. I've been a Lions fan since I was a kid. So I'm going to watch that for, because that's what I love. So I don't know. It's just always funny that there's all these little things that come up. And that was this week's outraged machine that I was okay, I don't know, this is what people are mad about today.
Things going on. There are so many things going on this week alone, not in the last 2 weeks. I mean, this week alone. Do I really care about Bad Bunny? I don't care. And the thing is, what's funny? I actually did see a Detroit Lions game in person. It was 2011, I think, in Wisconsin, Green Bay. I was in Green Bay, Lambeau Field. And there was actually a blizzard going on. I remember the snow was swirling around, standing there like an icicle, watching this big, huge New Year's Day game between the Packers and the Lions. And I just remembered, I was like, cool, sports, yay.
And I think honestly, it's like that. Some people like sports, some people don't. And every single time, people don't like the halftone show. They don't like the artist. Every single year, it's and then when it happens, everyone's like, well, they sucked anyway, so
it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Yeah. It's fun. I liked watching the Ryder Cup last week. That was really entertaining, especially on Sunday. So sometimes I'll get into it, but it's just not my thing. And I don't really think it's what matters for me to feel outraged over it. So it's okay. I'm cool. Bad Bunny. I don't know why people are upset, but
then what are you outraged about this week?
I'm not outraged per se, but I know like so many things have gone on this week that I had a list. I was like, okay, so we have a government shutdown.
Right.
We had the events of Friday, as you know. We have 3 Lee County school teachers that may be fired for their comments. And also 2 new people have just announced that they're running for District 19. So I was like, I have this list of things that I just want to know what you're thinking, what's going on. Let's talk.
Right. So which one do we want to jump into first?
You pick, girl.
Okay. All right. Let's do this District 19 race, because that's one where like we both ran for District 19 before. We know a lot about how it works. So yes, we did have 2 new names jump in this week. We had Madison Cawthorn, former congressman from North Carolina, and Catalina Loft, who had run in a Republican primary in Illinois, interestingly enough, against Jim Oberweis, who was ultimately the Republican nominee for that seat in Illinois that he then subsequently lost, because I believe it was a Dem favored seat. So we have like 2 people that actually primaried each other in Illinois running this race, which is kind of interesting. And then Madison Cawthorn from North Carolina. So I guess the other question I have is like, is there anybody that's local that's running in this race?
So there are 2 people that I know of that are local. There's only one that is native, only one that is local. Local is different than native, right? So we have Jim Schwartzel, who I think is native, if I'm not mistaken, right?
He's at least been here. I don't know how long he's been here, but he's a local businessman.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Mike Pedersen, who's also local. He's been here a long, long, long time. So you and I both, we get it. Like, oh, goodness gracious, did I just cut off?
Your camera stopped too.
There we go.
All right.
Sorry.
There, you're back.
I saw my camera falling, and I was like, oh no.
Oh no.
Okay.
Bad camera.
All right. So here's what I'm willing to say about everybody. I've met them all. They are good people. It's not like, oh, you just showed up here and you want to run because you have bad intentions or anything like that. They are nice, kind people. I've known Madison for years. I have known Catalina. She actually didn't quite remember me the last time I saw her, but I had met her years ago. We're not very close friends, but I've met her and I appreciate the work she's done. So that's Madison Cawthorn and Catalina Lauf that are running. We have Mike Pedersen, who is a local. We have Jim Schwartzel, who is a local. And then everyone else is like Jim Oberweis, John Strand, and Chris Collins, that are all from out of town. So, I mean,
about Chris Collins.
Yes. So the thing about me is, like, again, I appreciate them as people. I do want to get to know them more. I don't want to immediately pass judgment or any like comments about who I think is the best or not, because I want to let the campaign go a little bit forward so I can see what do they say, how do they represent themselves. The only thing, if I'm going to be completely honest, is, and I won't say names this time, but when a certain person moved here to town a couple years ago, and he's now running, when he moved here, I said, oh, he wants to run for Byron's seat. That was my first thought. Similarly, same thing happened for another person. Oh, they want to run for Byron's seat. And so my issue is, the whole point about being a representative is there are 435 congressional representatives. It's not like your vote is national. Your vote has to represent your district. It has to be local. It has to matter to those people. And if you just moved here to run, that is going to cause a lot of apprehension with a lot of voters. And so I recognize that, because you and I both ran. You and I know what it's like.
Right.
And I ran on the platform of, I was born here. I was raised here. This is my home. I have never left. I went to college at FGCU and you were my professor. I went to law school in Ave Maria. I have always been in this area. This is my home. And to be told that somebody else wants to come in and represent me when they haven't been here, I recognize that that's going to cause a lot of disruption with a lot of voters. So I'm interested to see how this all goes, because now with these latest two members of the race, it's going to be, in my opinion, I predict if it keeps going at this rate, we're going to have like 20 people running in a Republican primary come August.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, because from what I can tell too, there were some local favorite folks that have not announced yet. So we'll see if those people actually step up to run. I thought the same thing about, well, I thought that when Madison Cawthorn moved here out of the blue, that he was angling for a seat, and had heard that, Catalina Loff and them, were here as well. Whispers of that. What is really annoying to me is that this has been a carpetbagger seat for a while. Like, we had Kirk Clausen, right, who came in and did that as well. Francis Rooney is, from this area, so he had been around.
He had been a parishioner in my Catholic church for years before he ran, so I knew him. Yeah.
So that was, at least he was around town kind of guy. But listen, Dan Bongino ran for this seat, right? Like, actually, that's why Dan Bongino has blocked me on Twitter before he got his position, because every time he was trending, I would be like, hey, guess which Democrat got more votes than Dan Bongino in Florida 19?
Oh my goodness.
Just to be petty.
I met him. The first time I met him was at the 4th of July parade in Naples. Did you go to that year that you were running?
Oh, I don't remember. Well, because he ran in 2012.
No, so I'm sorry. It must have been 2016.
Yeah.
No, he did not, right? He ran the second time here, right?
Could be. I don't remember.
He had to, because I remember I was well into my teens.
Maybe 2012 ran in 2016. But he's not from here. He was like living on the East Coast, actually.
Right. So he ran. I must have been like 18 or something. I know this for sure. So it must have been like at least 2016, I think, that I met him at the 4th of July parade here in Naples. And I remember I was like, okay, great. I'm so glad that you're running for Congress. Nice to meet you. Same thing that I do with everybody. Like, I'm really excited to see your platform points. And you know what? I have always, I lost touch with him a couple years ago, but for a while I had like always been pretty aligned with his points. It was just that, Francis, I had known he was a parishioner in my church. I have known him for years, and that's where I leaned. So that's why, even though I appreciate and love a lot of the candidates that are running in 19, my biggest concern is like, I know how this goes because I've been there. I've been the voter, and I've also been one of the people voted for. And I know that that's what matters to a lot of people, is being local and caring about this area and having unequivocal care,
Yeah. Also, interestingly, Madison Cawthorn had been arrested again because of driving violations. Now, this is very interesting with him, because he's got a very long history of dangerous driving issues in North Carolina and here, almost immediately when he moved here as well, by the way. And he was arrested for not appearing because he had lost his license. And actually, he was like road raging against a friend of mine. And she got video of when he crashed into a trooper last year on Alligator Alley. So, which I think probably led to him losing his license. But I think there's a lot of people that are concerned about that as well. And I know on the Republican side, there's a bit of like, because he was essentially run out, right? Because of falling out with the establishment. But that might be attractive for folks here. I'm not sure. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Okay, so Madison is actually, of all the candidates I've known, technically the longest. I will not say that we are close friends. We know each other, and I respect him. I think he respects me. I hope he respects me. And I don't want to say anything badly of him. I think he is a good person. But I agree. I understand where you're coming from. The people in Southwest Florida are going to look at that and say, hey, how can you represent us if you're not even following our laws, if you're not even respecting our criminal justice system, our local court system? Our court summoned you, and now you have a mugshot because you missed a court date. It's rough enough, like, to overcome just moving here. And I get that they are national celebrities, but at the end of the day, this area has always been a community and we all kind of know each other. Again, that's why I say I was born and raised here. Everyone knows me because they've been watching me since I was a little girl. Most of the people that I know vote in primaries have been watching me since I was a little girl. And so the thing is, every action I've made, good or bad, has either a great consequence or a bad consequence. And the same thing is with Madison. He just came here and he got arrested. Actually, if I may, he had a run-in with the police, I think in 2023 as well, on the highway. I remember he was coming from Cape Coral to Naples for an event, and he also had that. So it's just kind of like one of these things is, Madison, if you want to represent us, you have to do your best to really respect our laws, and be more responsible and be more, less erratic, I suppose, less, unpredictable. And we know what you're going to do. We know how you're going to represent us. That's the kind of thing that I think Southwest Florida wants to see.
And so this is the gearing up for the Republican primary. And it'll be interesting because we're a closed primary state, so it'll be only Republicans that will be voting. And that will be in August of next year. We will know in April of next year when everybody is like done. Like that's where you have to qualify. It's like the rubber meets the road. So we'll see then. But it'll be an interesting race, I think, because the more people that are in, the actually fewer votes that you need to win, which is an interesting component as well. And yeah, so we'll be keeping our eye on Florida 19. Now there's only one Democrat running so far. That's hard. Right? And gosh, we love the media mentions for that, at least every time a new candidate comes in. But it's always like, yeah, but it's all going to be decided in the primary anyway. So, but Democrats always hope for the dark horse.
I mean, so, like what you were just saying, when you and I ran in 2020 for the Republican primary, it was decided by, I think, like 26,000 votes. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
No, I mean, ultimately in the primary, it was like 900 votes between Byron.
So the max, I think, was like 26,000 something and change. And so, yeah, it was within 1,000 votes between Byron and Dane. And actually, there's this video that I saw, I want to say like a year ago, where Byron was like, oh, everyone was talking about all my opponents. Dane Eagle's going to get this much. Dr. Fig and Casey are going to get this much. And I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about Christy McLaughlin, because Christy McLaughlin came out of nowhere. And he had this whole like spiel where he was joking, like, I'm worried about her. And she actually turned out a lot more votes than anyone thought. And the thing is, that shows how this area tends to vote. This area tends to vote with their heart. This area tends to vote with what they know. And so I pulled votes with no money. I had $19,000 compared to the millions in, the other races. So the fact that this race has now already about 9 people running, it's going to be this is going to be a melee. I think that's the best I can say.
I really hope that there will be some organizations that will step up and host some debates.
I hope so too.
It'll be fun.
Yes. And so I hope we have more Democrats running too, because honestly, at this point, who cares? Like if it was only about 26,000 votes, I don't know, 26 to 29,000 is what Byron won with. I know it was under 30. So if that's how much that Byron won with 9, imagine how many more people are going to jump in the race for the Republican vote. It's going to end up like 7,000 votes with the race. That's going to be crazy. So right
now in Florida 19 for the Democrats, there is no opponent for 19, but there are 2 candidates for Florida 17 vying to challenge Greg Stubbe. So that's interesting that for the second cycle in a row, that district is going to have another primary. So Dems getting excited all over the place.
Yep. So
you can't win a race that you don't run in. So
exactly. And I forgot to mention, so the reason why I brought up the District 19 thing is I ran in Palm Beach in 2022. And, I knew I wasn't going to win that. I knew I had no chance, just like the first time. But it was more like I wanted to make a point. I wanted to get my word out there. And to me, it was always about the issues and less about me. So it's like, if I can make people talk about this, then I'm going to do that. And I actually turned out more percentage of the vote. I like had almost 12%, I want to say, versus like my close to 5% in the first one. And so it's interesting that, people want to see a contested primary. People want to see challenges to a always Republican or always Democrat district, because,
100%.
people are invested and they care. And so, just because this is a heavily conservative district does not mean that we don't want to see what the Democrats have to say. I want to see what the Democrats have to say. So I hope somebody contests the current primary person, because I'm curious. I'm always wanting to listen.
I think it's better for voters overall when we have districts where it's a little bit more competitive and we have people running, across the board. It's just, I think that's personally better, because then we are informed, right? And it makes the politicians work, right? Like, folks just walking into seats because they're the next anointed person is what I think makes a lot of people frustrated about the system.
Definitely. And so that's what I'm most excited to see about 19 is no one's anointed right now.
That's true.
So that's fun.
Give a shout out to Cindy Schrader for joining us here. She's got her peanut gallery going in the comments here. Latest one, the no politician is a celebrity. So I don't know. We're in like a weird era with that. So like it or not, we're in the Kim Kardashian era of politics.
Yeah, we're in the influence era of politics.
We're in the influence era. All right. So let's see. We did Bad Bunny. Oh, well, let's move on to the Lee County Schools. So let's hear about this. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. Let me give a little preface and then we'll go over to you. So as of Fridays, there were 3 Lee County teachers who were recommended by the superintendent for termination in response to posts that they made in response to the death of Charlie Kirk. So this was a couple weeks ago, and they made posts on social media, and 3 teachers have been recommended for termination. Now, we'll also add on to that, there was actually 10 teachers in total who were investigated as part of this, but there was only 3 people whose names got out in the public because of how it got out. But that's where we are. Apparently the final word will be by the school board this Tuesday, and all of them will learn their ultimate fate at that meeting. So, Christy, what is your take on this?
So here's the thing about my take. I have several thoughts, but do you know what they said? Like, what did they post? I have not been able to find it anywhere. I've tried to Google it and I can't find it anywhere. It's kind of like scrubbed.
So yes, that is. Okay. So organization that I work with called Democracy Forever did an investigation into it. That's Democracy 4, number 4 ever. Gotcha. And we had gathered information about the investigation and about the posts. And the organization asserts that this was a political targeting of the teachers, and the posts of at least 2 of the teachers that have been publicly named are in that report. We don't actually know the identity of all 10 of the teachers. We know whom about half of them are, but we have not seen. Those are the only posts that we've actually seen. And by the way, also throughout this whole, people getting really upset in response to Charlie Kirk and the teachers, there was one person who was named that was not actually a Lee County teacher. So she was like kind of roped into it. Maybe, I don't know if she worked for another school or something, but both her and the school district had confirmed the woman's name was Lauren Bolick, was not a Lee County teacher. So there was another 3rd teacher that was recommended that we don't know, whose name has not been named publicly. So, but yeah.
Okay, so from my perspective, I'm a teacher. I've been I got my certification in Florida in May of 2016, so I'm almost 10 years as experienced teaching and certified teaching in Florida. And, I taught middle school, and I'm now teaching middle school and high school part-time. But so I'll tell you, from a teacher's perspective, there is a higher duty to be careful what you say on the internet. And I will tell you why. I got a prank call from my students a couple of days ago, and there were 5 of them on the phone giggling. Hi, is this Miss McLaughlin? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I hang up immediately. But the thing is, they're always watching what you do. And there's this weird balance that we don't get paid enough. Especially if, like, I work private, so it doesn't count for me. But teachers typically do not get paid enough to have to govern their social and personal life as much as they have to, knowing that students are always watching. But we are aware that students are always watching. So there is a higher duty to be more careful with your words, knowing full well that this is the career you chose, this is your job, and you do have to represent your workplace. Every person has to represent their workplace in the best way. Even if you're working for Taco Bell and you do something online that sparks an outrage, Taco Bell can fire you. So it's the same concept. However, so I recognize, like, there can be certain rhetoric, which I haven't really gotten to, because I see the article, I haven't gotten to find where the actual quotes are, but regardless, there is certain rhetoric and certain words that you can use that can spark insightful or incite outrage or incite violence, or imply that you're inciting violence as a representative of your school. That is a problem. And so the school district definitely has the right to terminate based on that. With that said, I am a staunch First Amendment free speech advocate, and I do not believe in overcompensating simply because we've had violence against us as Republicans, and so now we have to infringe on the free speech right of others. Charlie Kirk's free speech right was infringed on by an individual that silenced him forever. Why would we retaliate in the same way? So that's the balance. So I'd like to read eventually, when I get a chance, the exact quotes, because I couldn't find them before.
Yeah.
But if
they just deactivated their pages. So
who deactivated the pages?
Well, at least one of the teachers deactivated all of their social media afterward.
So they chose to do that. Okay.
Yeah. So let me tell you my thought on this, because I've been very intricately involved. I know some of the people involved very personally as well. These posts were really minor. Okay. They were not over the top. They did not wish anybody harm. And they were put on social media in their private, well, not their private, but their Facebook page, but it was closed to their friends only. Somebody then took those quotes in their posts, screenshot them, and then put them out. Okay. And I also reviewed the investigation materials. The investigation materials from the very beginning were 100% against the teachers. There was no representation of the people who were in support of the teachers and their First Amendment rights. And the contingent that seems to be at play here with the contracts and the union is whether or not it caused a disruption in the school. That's what it says. There's I've read the part in the contract with the standards and the professionalism and I don't think on any ordinary day that these posts, if they were against some other person, would have triggered this. I believe that with the way that other public officials, Donald Trump, JD Vance, Ron DeSantis, the Secretary of Education, also armor persons locally, and Kevin Anderson, all made very strong responses targeting the left, that we saw left-leaning teachers targeted. And also LGBT teachers were targeted. And many of the complaints that came into the school district also were not authenticated in any way, shape, or form. They did not come from the district. They did not come from people with children in the district. And in fact, some of them were coming from accounts that were totally brand new, made specifically for the purpose of complaining against these teachers. So we have a much broader issue here than just even the First Amendment. We have people who are actively trying to make Lee County an example for this. And I too believe in the First Amendment rights. I do believe that no matter where you are, your job, you should be able to say things on a closed page, especially when they're not violent, they were not incendiary, they were blown up to be much more worse than they were. Okay. And on top of that, it seemed like this was kind of a targeted campaign with people that really weren't from here. So that's kind of where I am with it. And that's why some of the organizations I work with did this investigation to kind of try to shine a light on what really had been happening behind the scenes and outside of just the anger verse, right? Like the reaction, the outrage centers online.
So can I ask you a few questions though? What defines a closed page?
So you can set your Facebook settings to be only to your friends instead of like publicly available. So you get to curate who is on your page. So
it was like, and I know that obviously, but like, I'm just wondering like what really defines a closed page? Like, okay, so if I closed off to all of my friends, I would like to define that as a closed page, but even so, I've got 5,000 plus people on my page. So how closed is it? So that's why I'm just wondering, where's the line there?
I mean, honestly, I know at least one of the people was like trying to build a political podcast, like some other folks, right? And so she had been speaking out publicly on different issues, not only just Charlie Kirk. So, that can be seen and maybe interpreted a little bit differently. But I'll also add this into the mix. Mm-hmm. Who is it that which entities cannot infringe upon your Bill of Rights, right? Your individual rights? It's the government, right? The government cannot infringe.
Individuals
is a government unit. So
say that again?
The school district is a government unit. So this is not only an issue of like a private employer, or not even the same as Taco Bell. This is, you are working for a government entity. So they are actually held to a higher standard when it comes to First Amendment speech, because it is the government that cannot infringe upon your speech.
Absolutely. So I'm going to comment on two things, if you don't mind. The only thing, and I'm sorry, I'm going to challenge you a little bit, but Trump, when he was told, after saying, peacefully march to the Capitol and let your voices be heard, he was accused of inciting violence. This is the thing, is when the Democrat Party likes to set a standard, and that standard that's very, very low, a low threshold, gets applied to maybe smaller, more local situations, they get very upset. If peacefully march to the Capitol to be heard on January 6th is determined as inciting violence, and I'm sure you've got your own, I can see it on your face, I see it. I'm sure you got plenty else to say, and I'm sure I've got plenty of else to say back. But once you lower the standard of what incites violence, you almost, not you, but like they almost welcome that low standard right back. I'm not approving of the concept of retaliation. It's more just, if that's how it is now, this is the new status quo. And so, like I said, I'm a staunch advocate of the First Amendment. I would much prefer that this wouldn't be happening. However, you also pointed out who is who is the Bill of Rights geared towards? It's geared towards checking the government and preventing the government from infringing individual rights. What we have is, as you mentioned, and the likelihood, because I know what it is like to be a teacher, parents and people hearing about it and complaining about it and reporting to the school board. So even though they're a government entity, it's no longer that the government saw it and decided to respond. It did become more of, we have so many parents or individuals complaining that we have to respond to prevent any more damage to our school and the students. I also have one more thing to ask. This is a quote from Big Mouth Media website. This is a quote of one of the posts that sparked a firestorm. What's that about the cost of the Second Amendment being some gun deaths every year? Bye, Charlie. Bye, Charlie. Is that not, as a teacher, if I said that and I knew that parents might hear about it, and I knew that, people in my school district will hear about it and know that I'm going to go teach kids on Monday morning, that would sound like I'm a violent person, in my opinion. Bye, Charlie. Like, dismissive of human life. Somebody got murdered. He's a young man.
I think being dismissive and inciting violence are different things. And it's really minor. My opinion, those posts were really minor. And yeah, people might have not liked it, but is that inciting violence? Is that celebrating death? I would not agree with that.
Can be, because imagine, so if you're dismissive of death and you don't care and it doesn't matter, you're telling everybody a strong message that it's okay. If you hear the wrong words and you're upset about it, go ahead. Not a big deal. And so it's not so much as inciting, it's more allowing. And again, as a teacher, we always say, if you don't have accountability, you're basically asking for the student to do it later. So we're not inciting the student to do it later, but if you don't have the accountability for a bad act, they're talking without raising their hand or something like that, you have to be accountable and you make sure that they're accountable. Otherwise, you're asking for them to do it later. Same concept.
If you're just gonna did get threats from her students, so
bye, Charlie. But if the attitude is bye, Charlie, whatever, don't care, it's almost like it's okay if you hear the wrong thing and you want to look the other way towards murder. I
feel like you're tap dancing. I'm not gonna lie. You're tap dancing to make this seem worse than it is.
How am I tap dancing? This is actually how
you're going really deep into the semantics of the interpretation of it.
Cindy, if you decided to do something that I really think is wrong, and I just go, bye, Cindy, whatever. I don't care about you, and I'm like,
I don't think you should be fired for that, though.
No, not necessarily, but when it comes to a murder that was super heinous, and you have a higher responsibility as a teacher. So again, I'm not tap dancing. I'm talking from experience. Cindy. This is the reality of being a teacher for lower grades, not college. I'm talking about minors.
Yeah, and I will say that the idea that the disruption, the assertion that is being made is that the disruption came from the response of the administration, because the number of people that were actually in support of the teacher was much higher than the number of people who had made complaints. And that's why there's some concerns as to this being political targeting. And interestingly enough, let's roll it back to another case of where people had thought that there was political targeting in response to the Lee County School District, was with Alfie Oakes. Remember all of that? And he had actually sued the school district on this issue because he had made some posts about COVID, right? Courts just recently determined that the school district of Lee County was in the right when it came to terminating their contract with Alfie Oakes, not based on what his speech was necessarily, but what that meant in terms of the quality of product he was going to be bringing into the schools.
So what exactly are you asking? Are you saying, was it okay for them to do that to Alfie?
Well, no, it's just, I'm giving a recent example of what happened, because there was the assertion that was targeted against his speech specifically, but then the courts had sided with the school district saying that there was this whole other reason now. Okay. Yeah, because so now we're actually, we're kind of basically, I'm bringing it back and forth. There's been a right and a left kind of poke on the political targeting here.
I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what Alfie said or did, and I'm not going to defend what Alfie said or did. Actually, if that was the ruling, that's the ruling. And I'm okay with that as well, because again, at the end of the day, it's about protecting the students. I'm a staunch First Amendment advocate. They stated that it was about the quality of, his product as opposed to the quality of his speech. And I'm okay with that as well. So again, it's always about like, again, I'm not tap dancing, Cindy. I truly am not. I'm just trying to speak frankly of what it's like to be a teacher. It really is. It's really challenging sometimes, because I go on social media and I'm like, if I post this photo of me, even like leaning against a bar, if I went out on a Friday night with my friends, is this going to come back and be, not pleasant experience for me, or if it's going to be something that goes back to my parents and the admin and the other teachers. I'm always very, very aware of that. So when it comes to school board, I get that there's the higher level. What I would say is that teachers need to get paid more if we're going to hold them to that higher standard. As far as the public,
I'll agree with that. I don't think they get paid enough for any of this hassle, to be honest.
I've always been private school, but like if you're going to hold them to that standard, you need to pay them more, and then you can hold them to that higher standard. And so the ultimate thing is, teachers, we choose it because it's a vocation. We love it. We love the kids, and so to have any kind of rhetoric that implies dismissiveness towards human life, is very, very wrong, in my opinion. I'm just going to be frank. I'm just going to say it how it is. That the one that I saw where they said "Bye, Charlie," that's wrong. That's not okay. Again, I am in favor of free speech, but to imply like "Bye, Charlie, I'm glad you're gone" is not okay as a teacher, especially because we have young students that are very, very impressionable. Parents are going to see it, admin's going to see it, other teachers are going to see it. You have the higher standard to, as an educator, have that influence on people. If you have influence on minors, you need to be very careful with what you say. So that is the one that I am willing to say. That's
the one that everybody's really mad about. I will say, though, that the kids aren't on Facebook.
The kids aren't on Facebook. You are right. They are on TikTok.
That's the mom book.
6, 7. That's all I can say. They're on TikTok and they're on everything else but
they're
Facebook.
All right. So for folks that are interested in supporting or not supporting the teachers, there is a school board meeting coming up on Tuesday. And there are going to be people in the community speaking out. So if you are in the Lee County School District and this is an issue that's close to your heart, if you're for the teachers or you want to say that this is not something you support, come on out to the school board meeting, because that, my friends, is democracy. That is us working and taking care of our community and raising our voices and having conversations. They will be taking public comment during the meeting, so you have to sign up for that. But otherwise, let's move on to another issue.
Most importantly, though, going back, know what they said. So I only saw the one, and that's what I was always like harping on, because I did not like that one comment. I saw that because I was skimming. But know what they said before you pass judgment on, is it okay to say something bad or good about Charlie? People have a right to free speech. Know what they said, and that's where you can ascertain where the line is.
Yeah, great. I love that. I love being informed before you make your opinion is always it's a good way to be.
That's all I saw. I saw headlines, 3 teachers getting fired in Lee County. And I was like, I don't even know what they said. How can I support or be upset about it without knowing what they said?
Yeah, that's good. Good that you took that thought, because a lot of people are just like pile on one way or the other. So good. So let's see, what else? Shut down. All right. So we had a situation here. So just as another background, and then I'll hand it over to Christy to launch into how she feels about all of this. Because this is going to be another one where we're going to be probably looking at things from very differently. So the fiscal year for the federal government starts on October 1st. One of the main things that Congress does every single session is every single year, actually not even just every session, so it's twice every session, is put forth a budget. They usually negotiate it all through the summer, and then it's passed in September, ready to go for October 1st. We have not had a full, robust budget passed in the past 2 years or more, okay? We have had continuing resolutions. Continuing resolutions, sometimes called the CRs, are these shorter stopgap measures that usually say, hey, we're going to just continue the funding as is, or we're going to add these other things in as well. So this is how we've been operating the budget for a while. And you might remember some big controversy over this that ended up with the ouster of Kevin McCarthy. Right? It was like when this really became a big political football, and all of this came with a lot of internal Republican fighting. I mean, Matt Gaetz was part of that before he stepped down, and different factions of people fighting against one another in the Republican-held majority in the House when it comes to this side of the budget. So what we have seen this year, we are still operating on like a rollover budget from fiscal, I think, 2024, 2023 at this point. And we had a continuing resolution come up, and it failed to get any Democratic votes in the House or the Senate. We saw kind of theatric things happening, like Mike Johnson had dismissed the House of Representatives. All the Democrats went to the floor, and the Republicans were wherever they were, not there. And then in the Senate, which they have to pass both the House and the Senate versions of the same bill in order to continue the continuing resolution, to have the money for the government to function, that did not garner any Democratic support, so it also failed in the Senate. So what ended up happening, without any money to continue, the functions of the government cease. Government employees were furloughed. Many of them will be furloughed without pay. Some will continue to work if they're in critical areas, but they will have to get their money on the back end in another negotiation. And we're in the third or fourth day of this now. And it's still a big stalemate. So immediately we saw blame going out on both sides, right? Democrats point to there being, it's a Republican majority, so this is a Republican-owned issue. And then the Republicans pointed back at the Democrats, saying it was because the Democrats didn't play ball. And then we saw Trump put out a whole bunch of messages about the government being shut down. So kind of the lay of the land of what is going on with the government shutdown. So Christy, what's your take on this government shutdown?
I mean, it's such a vast issue right now. I can't really like say what's my take. And again, I like have these long-winded monologues, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit less. The thing about it that you mentioned, so there's Democrats pointing blame towards Republicans because we have a majority in the House and the Senate, except we needed 60 votes. We didn't have the majority. We did not get to control the vote. It wasn't like we had Republicans turning on us and that we failed in our own party. What happened was we needed 60 votes in the Senate, and we couldn't flip the 7 necessary votes that we very much needed. And so you could definitely, Republicans are blaming Democrats, saying, well, you 7, we couldn't get at least 7 of you to play ball with us. I would like to bring up a video I saw where Maxine Waters, so somebody did, like a journalist, I suppose, approached Maxine Waters and said, hey, you have an issue. You guys are saying that you didn't want to shut down the government, but you know that only 7 of you needed to vote with the Republicans when almost all of the Republicans voted to prevent this shutdown. And they asked, okay, is it because you want to have, Medicaid for illegal immigrants? You want healthcare for illegal immigrants? Her response was, we want healthcare for all, which, we could discuss that. But the issue was that worth putting a bunch of government employees on unemployment, essentially, furloughing and having people have to forego any kind of paycheck that they're going to see? So the concept of playing ball, and I get it, it's, we can discuss the issue of healthcare, but again, it was mostly just for a certain term, and we've got to kind of punt the ball, and that's what the government always does. The federal government loves to punt. And so was it worth it right now to manifest this situation?
So let me talk about the healthcare thing, because that is definitely 100% been taken out of context. It has been the talking point of the right versus the left on this. The actual issue at hand is the extension of the subsidies for the marketplace plans. That was what the Democrats' request was in terms of negotiating for the continuing resolution. So that was not available to anyone who is not, legally here in the United States. You have to have a social security number to be able to get into the marketplace. There was no other extensions on Medicaid, so it has nothing to do with illegal immigrants, even the people that tried to catch people 22 and saying like, well, if you walk into the ER, then it's Medicaid. Yes, but that wasn't even what was on the table. The table was the subsidies being extended. So that feels really disingenuous for folks to be saying that that's the reason why, that the Democrats wanted illegal aliens to have health care. That's a very disingenuous argument, in my opinion.
I would say it's disingenuous. I think it's a factor. And we have to be honest.
It's not like that wasn't, people were upset about that, but it wasn't part of the negotiation. It wasn't even what's on the table.
Okay.
So it didn't feel like it was a fair criticism to say, okay, well, that's what the Democrats want, because that's not actually what the Democrats were asking for, and it wasn't even part of the negotiation. And you could say that, like, because Maxine Waters answered a gotcha question by saying, oh, I want healthcare for everybody. Oh, then that's the Democrats admitting it? Come on.
Maxine Waters is a very, very experienced senator. And she was confronted by a gotcha question by an inexperienced, no-name journalist. Come on. I mean, she knows the intention. She is an experienced legislator. I apologize, legislator. She's an experienced legislator who knows what she's doing. She knows how to respond to these questions. Come on, you want to excuse the fact that she has it. You called me tap dancing earlier. Come on, like that was tap dancing. That was her disingenuousness. That was her not being honest about her intentions. Because if she couldn't answer that right off the bat the way you just did, because that's the narrative now, that was part of it. But I'd also like to ask, even so, is it worth it? Is it really worth it right now? Is cutting off the paychecks for the many, many, many federal workers that rely on that for their day-to-day lives? Is it worth it over this issue? This is so the last government shutdown was what, 2019? Was it 2019? Because, yeah, I remember I went to the March for Life in 2019 in January, and that was the last time the government was shut down. Again, the Democrats, they love to try to make a point of showing force against the newest president that they don't like so much. So is it worth it? They want to act like they are martyrs and they are fighting for the people, but I would dare say that they are actually harming more people than they are helping people. I mean,
why didn't the Republicans negotiate on this? I guess the Republicans didn't have any sort of good faith negotiation with Democrats whatsoever. There was one thing that the Democrats asked for, and they said no. So I don't understand how this is the Democrats' fault. And frankly, I will put it like this. I think that the Democrats should have done this earlier this year when we came to this continuing resolution, 12 weeks ago, okay? Because that way there would have been a heck of a lot more maneuvering, and we could have actually negotiated at that time. But instead, Chuck Schumer rolled right over and gave the Republicans everything that they wanted without even negotiating anything. And now it's just pound town for Democrats, right? Like, because we didn't stand up and we didn't negotiate. So I think that I do not want anybody in the federal government to lose their job. I disagree with DOGE. I disagree with the furloughs, but this is not what the Democrats want. This is the Republicans' plan. And we're basically just allowing the Republicans' plan to go into action.
Well, I don't disagree with DOGE. Honestly, we have way too much overspending in the federal government. We haven't gotten into this yet, but we have way too many departments, in my opinion. Actually, we have way too many executive departments that shouldn't even exist in the first place. We have employees that are siphoning from our federal tax dollars. And I don't agree that we shouldn't be I think we should be cutting back quite a bit. And so the thing is, Trump warned, he said, hey, this is the plan, Democrats. if you guys don't come to the table, we are going to try to permanently get rid of these jobs. So you have a choice now. And so you asked,
Well,
why didn't
yeah, but
why
like
didn't
he didn't negotiate in good faith with them. Yeah, he said
well,
that was the cost, but I mean, and frankly, this is where a lot of people are at in terms of this brinkmanship and negotiation, because this is not a good faith negotiation. It's a brinkmanship. And Democrats are like, you know what? Do it. That's what you want, because then that way people will actually see how much pain Trump wants to inflict on the American people. So that's kind of where a lot of people are at right now.
I very much disagree, actually, because President Trump did negotiate in good faith. He won the election, and he's doing exactly what the people elected him to do. He won the popular vote. He won the
negotiating in faith. He came in and said, "We're not, vote for this, or we're going to fire these people."
He's following the platform points that we voted for him to do. So that's his good faith.
So
his good faith is
he did know Project 2025?
I'm sorry?
He did actually know who wrote Project 2025, unlike what he said during the election?
President Trump has always said that he does not support Project 2025, and I get that you guys want to do that. I mean, you guys can say that all day and night. President Trump has always been President Trump. Project 2025 was actually just trying to maybe mimic his rhetoric and then went off on their own tangent. Trump has always been Trump. He got elected again because that's what the people wanted. That's what the Electoral College decided. That's what the popular vote decided in 2024. So his good faith is towards the American people that voted for him. His good faith is not towards the very stubborn, legislators and senators.
Well, then we're going to see. That's right. So we're going to find out how much American people like to have complete cuts to their federal workforce. We've just expedited it then, right? So we've actually done what the American people want based on your premise.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go ahead and say defund the U.S. Department of Education.
Woo! Always. Boy.
I have been saying that for, I want to say, almost 8 years.
Oh,
defund
Lord.
the U.S. Department of Education.
The Department of Education is there because of Brown v. versus Board of Education.
The United States Department of Education doesn't even it does not protect students at all. They have we have even the state of Florida allowing a private cause of action for FERPA, but the U.S. Department of Education does not. We need to have a much stronger education system, and that needs to be by going back to the states, because the U.S. Department of Education does not protect the students. If they had a private cause of action for FERPA, maybe I'd be singing a different song, but they haven't. And in fact, the Inspector General report in 2018 showed how many complaints that students put against their schools that were completely ignored, and one of them was mine. Just completely ignored. No complaints have been addressed. They are not protecting students, so go ahead and defund it because they're not doing their job anyway.
Okay, we are actually out of time for me to defend the Department of Education right now, except for to say that it was built because of segregation, and its primary function is also to ensure higher education and giving funds to lower performing schools.
Except segregation is long gone, and that's not an issue anymore. And so we need to have an actual functioning department. And the department's not functioning. It's not actually providing a service. It's wasting taxpayer dollars.
Oof. Okay. We'll get into that another day. All right. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining us here in a very lively debate. See, it's okay. We don't have to it's okay, right?
I love you. I still love you.
I love you too. It's fine. We don't have to like the positions on everybody. We can have a little fun and poke around on everything. But that's what the point of this whole podcast is. So this has been a Democrat and Republican walk into a bar. I've been your Democratic host, Dr. Cindy Banyai.
And I'm Christy, your Republican host.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And don't forget to go to our website, bigmouthmediafl.com, and get a paid subscription. That helps us keep the lights on here. You'll also get this episode and the video sent directly to your inbox. You can listen to this for free on our Big Mouth Media website or wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. Please subscribe to our show there, like and share those episodes there as well. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Stay cool, guys.